Hello everyone, I am Sidra Ahmed and I am going to moderate the session. I welcome you all to this talk by TIE and I thank you for gracing this occasion. This is by TIE Lahore chapter. So the basic idea by TIE is that we have to foster the entrepreneurship. We have to give new ideas, mentoring and education to our young children. This idea reminds me of Robert Frost, who's the renowned author and a poet. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. We are all here to honor and listen to one great man who's really made a difference and is here to share his story with us. But before we move forward, I'd like to introduce you to what TIE actually is and what is TIE International. The Indus entrepreneurs were founded in 1992 in Silicon Valley by a group of successful entrepreneurs with roots in Indus region. There are currently 1,300 members, including over 2,500 charter members in 61 chapters across 18 countries. This Lahore chapter is one of those chapters. So the Lahore chapter is an international not-for-profit organization fostering entrepreneurship, like I mentioned earlier, and it is wholeheartedly committed to mentoring, educating, and incubating. The idea of TIE Talks to call upon the business gurus of Pakistan, it's like creating an opportunity for being a coach and not a manager. It's like making a vision, sharing it, and passing it on to make it their vision and our vision. Of success. One is energy, execution, and ethics. And this person sitting among us is the master of all three. Low ego, high accomplishment, consistency, innovation, and dignity. When you have it all, success comes from everywhere. So let's just get energized by listening to one of Pakistan's renowned businessmen who's the chairman of Kohinoor Maple Leaf Group, an avid golfer, too fit to be true at this young age, and to my knowledge, winner of many gym championships. Please welcome Mr. Tariq Saeed Sehgal.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would like to apologize for the late start to this session today, because I think a mishap took place, because I think the organizers weren't told that there would be a few slides that I had used as well. But anyway, all's well. What I will do is, with Humayun's permission, is to try and shorten as much as I can what I want to say, and so that we're not too far out of time. And actually, I'm a wee bit worried, because I might have put you to sleep by then anyway, because I am not really into speaking at such occasions anymore for some time. We'll talk about that a little later. So without much ado, Humayun Mazhar Sahab, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really honored to have been invited here to talk to you. The format that's been given to me is that I must go down what they call memory lane, and I must talk about my own experiences. And then, as entrepreneurship is the subject matter of discussion, I have been asked to compile a set of imperatives that I think are essential, and actually also to discuss the paradoxes, because entrepreneurship also actually throws up several paradoxes, and we'll discuss that in the slide part. And then my colleagues have put together a very small slideshow for budding entrepreneurs, and you'll just see that that's really got nothing to do with my contribution. So some time ago, And my friend Dr. Nadeem would remember Nadeem ul Haq. When he was the chairman of the Planning Commission, I decided that I was not going to take part in anything that related to government interaction. And just as well, because I then resigned from the Economic Advisory Council, and so I'm a bit removed from the world of business politics. So if I'm not current, you will forgive that, but this is by design. I'd done enough, I think, and I thought it was time to enjoy myself and do the things I've always wanted to do. So if I'm rusty, you'll excuse me. But then, old habits die hard, so when Humayun Mazhar Sahab invited me, I quickly accepted, because it would give me a chance to talk about my past and what I think ought to dictate some imperatives and the paradoxes. Just a little word about politics. I think they're so current right now, they're so topical. You would recall that in the 2013 elections, the win by the Nawaz Sharif group had rekindled hope, and he was expected to deliver on the election promises. The barometer or the base at that time was very low. The prior 5 years of the People's Party government had dashed hopes. The economy was doing very badly, and people spoke at the polls. Mr. Sharif got a clear majority, but then I think it's upon us now again, within a year, to actually gauge and decide whether his performance has been up to the mark, whether the promises he made at election time have been delivered on. And frankly, the Supreme Court's, I don't know, Saad Rasool will tell us whether I'm being contemptuous or not, but odd judgment of the Supreme Court hasn't made things any easier, because frankly it's not a very clear verdict. So I think the backdrop to the 2018 elections is a very interesting one, because people will yet again have to decide. But I think I have hope there that sensible choices will be made. And enough about politics, but what I want to say is that frankly the 2013 elections were manifestation of management at work. I think that the people realized that they had not been delivered what they had voted for. And I think their mandate was very clear. They gave a new mandate, their choices were very clear. So that actually gave me hope, because non-delivery had been punished, and in a sense entrepreneurship is also about delivery. We'll talk about that a little later. But if you don't deliver, you get fired, and the People's Party did get fired in 2013. Now it remains to be seen whether the people think that in 2018 non-delivery ought to be fired or not, and there will be a very interesting backdrop. So I was actually quite elated to receive your invitation, Humayun, because it gave me frankly an opportunity to reflect on my own life. And since the first part of my talk had to relate to memories, and memory, I had to go down memory lane, it actually gave me time to make an introspection of what I had done and what lessons could be drawn from my own experiences. But I have to say at the outset that I know that self-belief and commitment and resolve can work wonders. And since we're talking and discussing entrepreneurship, self-belief and commitment and resolve, I think, are central to any success. And they are a formula which cannot be ignored. And in my own experiences, frankly, I found that the great intellectuals and the chaps that always stood first in this class and all that, seldom did well in life later on. No reflection on Nadeem, although he did go on to become a PhD from the Chicago School in economics, but he wasn't an A-class student in school, if you remember Nadeem. If memory doesn't fail me, I used to score better than you did, and those weren't very good scores anyway. But we found that the team player that was a team player in the right sense, that delegated, that trusted, that worked in a cross-functional manner, actually excelled most times in later life. So that was another lesson that while I was doing my own introspection, I thought I would set the tone for this talk on that basis. Okay, so since we're talking memory lane, I think talking about going down memory lane, I think talking about the Sehgals would be a bit instructive. First of all, a clarification is in order. Contrary to popular belief, the Sehgals, although they are sheikhs, are not part of the elite Chinyoti sheikhs. We actually hail from a village near Chakwal on the Potohar Plateau. From 10 kilometers from Chakwal, west of it. And rather embarrassingly, the name of my village actually is Khotiyan. Khotiyan being donkeys. And so it was always a bit embarrassing to refer to oneself as a guy who hailed from Khotiyan. But as history has it, my father, the illustrious Said Sehgal, did very well, progressed, and we'll talk about him because lots of lessons we learned from him. The late Field Marshal and he were friends. He thought his achievements at least deserved that Khotiyan should be renamed. So Khotiyan was actually renamed Sehgalabad as late as the early 60s. So until the early 60s we were Khotiyans, Khotiyanwalas, and subsequent to that we became part of Sehgalabad. So that's the interesting comment I wanted to make. But the family history is an interesting one because there are a lot of lessons, frankly, that could be learned from my father and from his brothers, my uncles, because they were rather ordinary little artis or traders in Khotiyan. I don't think they had much land. At least I haven't been able to find record of it. But they did have that pioneering spirit, and that's part of what entrepreneurship is all about when we talk about it. Because as early as the 20s, when my father was a very young man, not even 20 years old, he and his brothers went off to Calcutta to set up a business. And you could imagine, young kids going off to Calcutta, over 1,000 miles away from where they were, in this little village in Potohar, and set roots in Calcutta. And as a lot of Muslim businessmen used to do in India, they went into the shoe business, into the leather business. And that's where they started to make some money. And as I've been told, the family history tells me that Actually, the Burma front in the Second World War provided the real breakthrough, because the British Army and their allies required Macintoshes and Wellington boots, because it was raining all the time there in that front. So he quickly turned his activity into producing Macintoshes, etc. And that's where he made a lot of money. But then, equally interesting, and again a lesson in entrepreneurship and forward thinking, is that he'd amassed wealth, but he realized that India was going to be partitioned. And he realized that the Muslims would be second-grade citizens. So actually, where my office is now, where I was actually also born, 42 Lawrence Road, he'd bought this property, my records tell me, in 1940. So he'd realized that Calcutta was a pit stop. It was a place you made the money, got out of there before the going got tough. So just as bold as he was in taking the family as youngsters into Calcutta, he was bold enough to leave a running business in Calcutta and move before partition. And as I look at the record, 47 Pakistan was born. 4950 is the first 25,000 spindles that came up in Lailpur, in Faisalabad. So it must have been blistering work and blistering pace of work when you didn't have much mechanization, etc., to actually get the permissions, find the equipment, and actually put a spinning mill into operation. And I remember I was a young boy, and before he died, he would speak, say, हम तो बहुत पैसे कमाते थे टेक्सटाइल में, तो हमें एक तकला, which is one spindle, वो ₹1 का हमें डेली प्रॉफिट होता था. तो हमें तो समझ नहीं आती थी उस पैसों के साथ क्या करें. So he obviously did what he knew best, which is to reinvest. So then he set up, he doubled the capacity at Lailpur, set up this company in Rawalpindi, and really grew that, and then started to buy equipment from running companies from the PIDC and the TDA, Thal Development Authority, which a lot of other of our entrepreneurs also did. The Crescent Group, the Daud Group. And this was the model. PIDC would go into areas where established businesses wouldn't want to go, and they'd set up these units in underdeveloped areas and then sell them to the private sector. Because back then they realized that the public sector couldn't really run businesses profitably. And the paradox came with Mr. Bhutto when he destroyed that edifice. We talk about that a little bit later. So I think the growth was very, very good, very quick, very fast. And that again reflected his and his team's ability to take advantage of situations that opportunities that presented themselves. But sadly, he'd got things going. He'd set up 5 or 6 textile mills by then in various parts of the Punjab. And he'd set up this chemical complex at Kala Shakaku, which is sadly lying in ruins now, devastated by the mismanagement of public sector. Then gone into ghee industry, gone into banking, United Bank Limited. And that too was somewhat parochial at that time, but he thought it was service to the community, because credit from the large bank would only mostly go to the Memons, the Habib Bank, and to some extent the smaller Muslim commercial bank. They were quite parochial about the way they disperse credit. And he felt that the the Punjabi sheikhs and the Punjabi businessmen, entrepreneurs, were lagging behind because they didn't have the opportunity to access credit. So UBL was set up, and the rest is history. But sadly, he died very young. He died when he was only 60, and that was way back in 1965. The reason I'm not 90 years old is because I was born out of his second marriage. So I was only 15 when he died. And in a sense, my own life's experiences also had a great impact on the fact that my father died when I was only 15. But in comes Mr. Bhutto, and then there's another lesson to be learned here about family businesses. Comes in, nationalizes everything, and because we were so diversified, every time a bout of nationalization took place, the Sehgals also had to part with some assets. पहले chemical industry हुई, फिर ghee industry, फिर banks, insurance companies, ginning factories, etc. So because we were diversified, every round of nationalization actually truncated and reduced our size. Until by the time I joined the company, and I just joined the company then at Kala Shakaku, we were actually cut down to about 30% of what our assets were prior to Mr. Bhutto. And this was actually a huge challenge and a huge, had a big impact on my cousins, my generation, because my generation had by that time come in, and there were lots of us and not enough work to do, and we were very dispirited, and flight of capital and human talent started to take place in the 70s, as you know. There was a complete despondency, and to my mind, the very few business groups that did invest, Mr. Mannu did, Shahzada, God bless him, but he's and a few others were the only ones that really made any investment, and the public sector just grew by leaps and bounds in size. Private sector was in disarray. 50% of us, I think, were looking for businesses to do abroad. That was very difficult. Capital was scarce. We didn't have, I think, so the Sehgals also tried to do business. And there was one thing common to every business that we tried abroad. All of them failed. All of them failed. Not a single business that we set up, or my cousin set up, worked. We were total failures. Another lesson to be learned. We didn't have that level of pioneering ability that frankly our elders had. And so before long, in 1976, what was left of the family assets were divided. So 3 groups emerged. My brother and I, along with 2 other cousins, got the mills in Pindi. That came to our shares. Well, my cousins weren't too interested, and there were differences, so then I bought them out, and ultimately Tawfiq, my brother, and I, we started our journey from the Pindi mills. And then, frankly speaking, if I look at our own performance, well, it's not as staggering and as great as some others we should emulate, like Mr. Mansha and like Tabaz and others. But frankly speaking, I was 27 years old by then when the split took place, and we were dispirited. Mr. Bhutto is still around, and we hadn't really put anything back into the businesses. What we inherited was a sick textile mill. Outmoded equipment, outmoded people, lots of them rishtedars from Khotiyan, and you can't have rishtedars in prime jobs. Human capital has to be rewarded and has to be upgraded. So, when I look back, I think were those two terrible things that happened to me at a very young age. My father dying when I was 15, nationalization taking place from 1972 to 75, 76, and the separation in 1976. Were they good for me personally? Were they bad for me? I think they were very bad for our family. But frankly, maybe I was lucky. Maybe I was dealt the right cards. I don't know. But I think for me it worked pretty well. And if I look back upon the lessons learned there and the challenges that were created, I think that that adversity actually created an opportunity for me, which I'm glad to say we did well. But lessons have to be learned at every stage in your life. And I'll give you a very interesting example that I've jotted down here. I was perhaps the only Sehgal that was posted under a professional manager in Kala Shakaku when I joined the company. I was a bit upset about that. मैं क्यों नहीं मियाँ साहब बन गया शुरू से? Why do I have to work under this guy, this professional? And women can also influence you. No sexist remark here, but some of my sisters etc. felt, अब्बा जी फौत हो गए हैं तो इसको देखो इन्होंने एक मुलाजिम के नीचे लगा दिया. But I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that was the greatest learning experience of my life. Because I was posted under Mr. G.M. Dean. He'd come from the ICI. He was a very senior man. Disciplinarian, if ever there was one. 6 feet 2 inches tall, imposing man. 5 days into reporting to him, and I get a letter. He says, "Dear Mr. Sehgal, your arrival times into office were 8:15, 8:16, 8:12, 8:18, and you are advised in your own interest to come in time to work. Otherwise," and do you know that set a habit? I just abhor being late somewhere, and I think punctuality is a big thing. Although I talk to my sons, maybe this is a changing time. I talk to Arif about it, who's our advisor and a director. So they say flexi hours हैं जी हमारे वो flexi hours का system है. अब I'm 67 तो मैं वो ज़्यादा बहस में नहीं इनके पड़ता, because they're frankly running the companies better than I ran them. So flexi hours must be working for them. But discipline जो था वो I did learn from him. And the other great thing I learned from him was that he said to me earlier on, do you want to be a pencil pusher, a bureaucrat, or do you want to be an entrepreneur, a businessman? So मैंने कहा, Dean साहब, of course मैं business family का हूँ, मैं तो ये मालकों में से हूँ, मैं तो I want to be a big. उसने कहा, अच्छा ये करो एक काम तुम कि decision making जो है उसको तुम ठीक करो अपनी, और उसको फैसले किया करो. गलत भी होंगे, अच्छे भी होंगे, बुरे भी होंगे, वो दोनों होंगे, लेकिन फैसला करना ज़रूरी है. यू वांट टू बी ए लीडर. तो मैंने कहा जी वो बताएं कैसे. कहने लगा एक काम करो कि फ्रॉम मंडे जो डाक आएगी ना, जो इनकमिंग पेपर्स, उनको नीचे दराज में रख देना. डोंट लुक एट देम. फिर ट्यूसडे वाले भी रख देना, वेंसडे वाले भी रख देना, थर्सडे वाले भी रख देना. कम बैक ऑन मंडे and look at that previous week's papers. 90% of them will be out infructuous. इसलिए कि either action would have been taken on them or no action would have been taken on them. Either way, chances are you won't get into trouble because you wouldn't have taken a decision. But you'll be a bureaucrat. You'll never be a leader then. फिर इसी तरह वो टाइमिंग का एक दफ़ा मैं लेट बैठा हुआ था So he knocked on my door, came in. What are you doing here? It's past 5 o'clock. So I said, sir, वो काम है थोड़ा. तो इसका मतलब है तुम अपना जो काम है वो अपने टाइम में नहीं कर सकते, डेलीगेट नहीं करते होगे या बैठे रहते होगे. I don't want people sitting around after 5 o'clock in the office unless there's a fire in the plant, sure, but I got to get out of there. So it was difficult to earn his approval, but there were things he taught me in a simplistic manner that if you want to be a leader, then you have to be a decision maker. My own story, well, I've talked a bit about it. We've done well. We expanded the operations in Pindi and in Gujar Khan and set up new things in Raiwind. Then the privatization started and we bought Maple Leaf Cement. Maple Leaf was only 1800 tons of production a day. It now produces 13,000 tons a day. It will produce almost 20,000 in 2 years' time because we're putting up a new plant there as well. So in our own case, it's worked very well. But you know, going forward, again, lessons learned from my father's time is that I looked back and examined why the second generation of the Sehgal family didn't really progress as well as they should have. Several of my cousins and several of those businesses have gone under or they haven't progressed. And I'd like to think that happened because, first of all, there wasn't a family constitution. Family constitution is so essential, where you are able to reward people who perform, you are able to create succession, you are able to create, give jobs to people that they are best suited for. ये मेरा बेटा है, ये बहुत अच्छा है, इसको तो मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर लगा दो फलानी जगह. That guy wants to be an artist. Let him be an artist. The family constitution should look after his interests or her interests. ये बड़ा बहुत अच्छा लड़का है जी, इसको इधर लगा दें. But he wants to be a cricketer, wants to be a sportsman. तो उसको वहाँ जाने दें. This, in my time at least, was considered an anathema. The rule was कि चूंकि ये सहगल लड़का है, इसको तो मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर बनाना ही बनाना है फलानी स्पिनिंग मिल का या इसका उसका या घी मिल का. Not all of us are born equal, and not all of us are have the aptitude or the interest to become entrepreneurs and business leaders. So I urge all of you who already are in family businesses, and several faces I see here, my friends, कि I urge you कि ये हर बच्चे को बच्ची को इसमें मत डालें प्लीज़. ह्यूमन कैपिटल जो है उसको इनकरेज करें और जिसका एप्टीट्यूड नहीं है उसको जाने दें. Let him or her find their own forte, and they will if they're worth, and if they're not even able to do it there, तो एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऐसी फेयर होनी चाहिए कि उनका हिस्सा जो है या उनका इंटरेस्ट जो है वो that is catered for, और उसको and it's should be strictly looked after. So that's one lesson for the future. And the other important lesson, and there again it's part of the constitution, that inequality creates dissension in family businesses. मेरा अपना ये ख्याल है कि एक लफ्ज़ हम यूज़ करते हैं टर्म, वो तो जी चढ़ के बह गया जी. There's one part of the family वो चढ़ के बैठ जाती, वो दूसरे वाले काफ़ी कैपेबल होते हैं ان کو نہ ان کا حصہ ملتا ہے نہ ان کو ریکگنیشن ملتی ہے. تو آئی تھنک اکوالٹی, فیئر پلے in the constitution should be cornerstones. Otherwise آپ progress نہیں کر سکتے میرے خیال میں. You know, behind every cloud there is that silver lining, that cliche. Or so in my own case, I think that father dying when I was 15, large scale nationalizations. The next one came, Nadeem, you would remember when I had my heart attack quite prematurely. I was only 43 and I nearly died. And you know, I was very despondent. I have 3 young children. Kya hoga? Who is going to look after my wife and my family and all that? But I think that made me change my attitude towards life. From being an A-class personality to becoming a more open, a more accepting personality. So, you know, میں تو کہتا ہوں my life began after my heart attack. Because I started things like going to the gym, although it's landed me into a lot of trouble with my bad shoulder. So I can't play any golf anymore for a while. But that's on the lighter side. Other important lesson, you know, Nadeem wouldn't remember this, but because you went away to Islamabad with your father. But I tried my hand at public speaking one time at the state of HSONIA جو ہوتا تھا ہمارے HSN میں وہ ڈبیٹ ہوتی تھی تو اس میں نے اٹھ کے اپنی کوشش کی ڈبیٹ کی. I got stage fright and I made an absolute ass of myself at that particular thing. But this thing stuck in my mind. And the person who helped me was Sarmad's father, my father-in-law. He says, نہیں تو لاہور چیمبر وچ جا, ایپٹما وچ جا, you know, cement association وچ جا. And I've had the honor of having led all those and now I've one full circle. I love hearing my own voice and I won't stop when I should. So, you know, you can't freeze. You'll have bad times, you'll have upheavals, you'll have almost existential threats, health-wise, family relations-wise, business-wise. But I think you've got to keep going. I think grit is everything. And behind every, cloud, there is a silver lining. Leadership. And we talk about it all the time. Harvard writes about it all the time. They keep changing their minds about what is the most important ingredient. In my own experience, I would say humility is the most important part of leadership. No, Arif and I disagree. He thinks empathy. I think empathy is second to humility. My own view. And of course, equally important is integrity. کہ ٹیکسز دو اور پھر سپریم کورٹ میں جا کے فیس کرو پرابلمس کے وہ کہاں سے آئے تھے پیسے, اینڈ یو آر دا پرائم منسٹر. ڈزنٹ ورک. ہیو ٹو اپلائی دا same criteria if you want to be a leader. And that's why I'm very envious, but I hate to say it, that the strides that Mr. Narendra Modi, Pakistan hater, is making in India. Civil service reform, fantastic issues. Abhi jo uske ek address mein dekh raha tha. Because I think integrity کو تو کوشچن کر ہی نہیں نہ سکتے, اس کے ہمبل بیک گراؤنڈس کو بھی نہیں کر سکتے, اس کی ایمپتھی کو بھی نہیں کر سکتے. So I think he is going to make India surge, and I think there is a lesson learned there. But you know, leadership and entrepreneurship are, I think, intertwined. And they are part and parcel of the same ultimate goal. What do we deal in? We deal with hope. We create hope. اور ہوپ میں یہ ہے کہ we have to learn from history, but we don't learn from history. That's the only thing we learn. So that's a very short run down memory lane for me. And the second part of this thing is relates to entrepreneurship. Very quickly run through that. You'll operate it. This is not original. This has been put together by my team. We sat, they talked to me, and we said, well, can entrepreneurship be taught? What is entrepreneurship? So, overarching, we felt that there has to be a strong sense of mission. Higher goals drive the real entrepreneur. And this sense of purpose, it has to go beyond just making money. Just making money, pure and simple, to my mind, is not the definition of entrepreneurship. And then we looked at different facets to it. Okay, what have successful companies and successful operations defined entrepreneurship like? Well, if you look at the Walmart founder, he said, and you can read, I've concentrated all along on building a finest retailing company that we possibly could, period. Creating a huge personal fortune was never a goal of mine. Take BMW, they said they want to make the ultimate driving machine. So that's their sense. And then Jack Welch, the legendary GE man, he says, I want to be at least number one or number two in every market we serve. So why we put this together was that we said that overarching entrepreneurship, something beyond making just money, has to be something bigger to it. You either got to have the best product, or you've got to have the best philanthropy. You have to have something more than just having a great balance sheet. And then I asked Arif کہ اچھا یار اس کو پھر پلیز اس کی ذرا مثال مجھے پریکٹیکل ٹرم میں نکال کے دو. So the next slide actually says it all. And this too is not original because he picked it out of Collins' Good to Great, the book. And this shows you that $1 invested in 1926 in the visionary companies, which was that first slide I showed. Companies with a greater purpose. Boeing, Walmart, GE is worth $6,356 back in 1990. I'm sure if the figures are done up to 2016, this will be over $10,000 or more. But in the rest of the lot, companies that didn't have that great sense to them, it was only worth, what, $955? So 7 times less, 6 times less. So there's something to be said for having a bigger goal. Then in our talks about people building, etc., we just compressed a few items. And these are actually a summary of what I talked about from my own lessons. You have to have a pioneering spirit and courage. If you don't have courage, you're not going to get there. If you're a herd follower, herd mentality, doesn't work. Then we said you have to have compassion and hope. Look at Gates, most of their fortune given away. Then turning adversity into opportunity, what example could we use? We picked Mullally's turnaround of Ford, bankrupt company. And what is more creditable is that it was done without any government support. It was just done through enterprise. Then we said you have to have an ability to think to the end, which is what we said, futuristic bhi hona chahiye. Well, look at Buffett. History tells us he bought his first stock at age 18. He is worth just a little bit of money, 78 billion. And half of which he's given away to Melinda and Bill Gates for their charity. Then problem solving. So we decided to use Musk as an example. Here he was faced in 2008 with bankruptcy of both companies. Well, conventional wisdom would have suggested he's going to go for one or for neither, but he went for both and he turned both around. So there's something to say for solving problems. And then there's succession planning. We picked the Mars company, and this has been family owned since 1911. It's worth $28 billion. And so these, we said, would be the key attributes to entrepreneurship. But then we also came up with paradoxes. And the paradoxes are also very interesting. Because what is your purpose beyond profit and pragmatic pursuit of profit? हमने कहा कि एक तो बिल्कुल प्रॉफिट का एस्पेक्ट है, एक उसकी pursuit of profit में क्या आप चीज़ें कर सकते हैं which will set you apart. फिर हमने कहा कि मैनेजमेंट में क्या होता है, and we are faced with this all the time. There's the conservative management, core thinker, and the bold one committed to taking risks. How do you draw the line? How do you draw the balance? And that's got to be a key attribute of entrepreneurship. Saeed is sitting here, my old friend. Well, he could have been conservative in his core thinking. He sees the opportunity, he thought, and he'd created that bank himself. I remember when he created it, his first branch. I was a customer of his. But he said, "Nahi, I can't be a biggie because of various reasons." So he sold top of the market. That was a very bold move. Then you have to have clear vision, sense of direction in your management versus very experimental grouping and experimentation. We see too many guys wanting to be everything. कि अच्छा जी हम तो टेक्सटाइल भी करते हैं, हम सीमेंट भी करते हैं, हम जहाज़ भी बनाते हैं, हम ये भी करते हैं, वो भी करते हैं. Lose the sense of direction, and that can create disasters. Very large goals, call them bhag, and the attitude where we are going to have an incremental evolutionary process of growth. Where do you draw the balance? Similarly, in the selection of your managers, do you select managers that are steeped in your core business, textile walas, cement walas, or do you go for management that induces change? You are creative, creates a big challenge. Do you invest for the long term, or are you looking for short term gains? कि ये manager है, ये team है, ये बड़े immediate gains आपको दे देगा. Are you philosophical, visionary, futuristic, or are you just basically saying, "Nee, I want a good quarterly account, good quarterly return, तो मेरा share जो है वो ज़रा सा बढ़ जाएगा in the stock market." But you know, if you're adopting a futuristic attitude, you're going to possibly be having to invest money. So your bottom line may not be that good. Are you focused and persistent, or are you open to change? Now, persistence is good, but being overly persistent, not good, because you don't create change in your organization. And you know, I have to hand it to my other friend sitting here, Izzy, Azaz Systems. He said, I'm open to change, I want to empower people, I want to create co-ownership. And he's created a multiple number of entrepreneurs within one organization. But that too requires a very broad-minded and a very different approach. کہ نہیں یہ تو میری ہے. So we thought these were the paradoxes that come in. And they must be coming into every businessman's life. And then before I end this, do we, after all this lecturing that I've done, and do I myself, and I hold myself equally on the mat for this, do we have a higher goal? Do we institutionalize for the third generation or vanish after the third generation? The Sehgal family almost vanished, by the way. And because they did not take care of all these things in view of the challenges they faced. So, there has to be an intellectual introspection and discussion to be able to deal with these paradoxes. Because dealing with these paradoxes is not an easy job. Because you, in a sense, actually disempower yourself when you start dealing with these paradoxes. One view is that entrepreneurship is essentially a matter of self-esteem. And without governance, you will never produce the world-class products that we are looking for. And I think that all of us are in textiles, most of us are. We see this, that we have actually not been able to create world-class companies in the textile business. The Indians have. The Indians have created some businesses that are world-class. So there's no overnight success. You have to persevere. And you have to understand that your customer is really your only boss. And in a family business, particularly, so most of us are family businesses here, your work is never really done. You've got to actually consider it as a trust for the next generation. If you don't consider it as a trust, then most businesses will die after that generation. You might be very wealthy at the end of the game, but will you leave a legacy? We picked one from Dell to end it, Michael Dell. He says you've got to be crazy and don't seek too much advice, and believe in your own instinct. Then there's a little thing that my boys and girls actually put together, which is a very small show, slideshow. Take a couple of minutes, and I'd like you to put that on. This is where I come to the end of my talk, and I hope that these slides will provide some direction for budding entrepreneurs. I hope there are quite a few in this room. And these are the things that we would advise you to look at when you decide what you're going to do with your lives. I thank you very much.
So passion, not profits, efficient decision making and not bureaucracy, big, hairy, audacious goals and not short-term performances. Let's give him another round of applause to Mr. Tariq Saeed Sehgal. House is now open for questions.
Sir, I am Azaz Mirza from Lahore Chamber. Sir, really honored to listen you live, sir. I have two questions. First question related to your family and second question related to business. My first question is that you are the only person in Lahore Chamber history who served presidency in his whole life. Number one. Number two, so what is the difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur? I always try to learn that, ask that a lot of people want to be a businessman. So what is the basic difference that can differentiate a businessman to an entrepreneurship? Thank you so much, sir.
सवाल जो है उसका जवाब तो बड़ा सिंपल है. वो होती 1 साल ही की है टर्म एज प्रेसिडेंट. पहले आप 1 साल SVP होते हैं, सीनियर वाइस प्रेसिडेंट एज यू नो. उसके बाद 1 साल और आप प्रेसिडेंट बनते हैं. हुआ ये था कि जो उस वक्त की पीपल्स पार्टी की गवर्नमेंट थी उन्होंने ट्रेड लॉज चेंज कर दिए थे. ट्रेड लॉ उन्होंने ये चेंज किया कि ये जो टर्म ऑफ ऑफिस है वो 1 साल नहीं होगी, वो 2 साल होगी. एंड बिकॉज दे फेल्ट के कंटिन्यूटी होनी चाहिए. तो हुआ ये कि कुछ हमारे जो थे सीनियर्स उन्होंने ये इसको हाई कोर्ट में चैलेंज किया इन फॉर्म ऑफ रिट पिटिशन. तो हाई कोर्ट ने उस पर एक स्टे ऑर्डर दे दिया और उन्होंने कहा कि स्टेटस को विल बी मेंटेन्ड. तो वेदर आई लाइक्ड इट और नॉट आई हैड टू स्टे ऑन फॉर अनदर 9 months. तो इट वाज प्योरली बाय चांस. वो कोई ऐसी इसमें कोई कंस्पिरेसी नहीं थी. और मैंने तो पहले दरख्वास्त भी दी थी हाई कोर्ट में कि मुझे आप इस्तीफ़ा देने दें. तो उन्होंने कहा नहीं, दिस विल बी कंटेम्प्ट, इसलिए कि देयर इज अ स्टे ऑर्डर. मगर फिर ये हुआ कि गवर्नमेंट चेंज हो गई बिफोर माई 2 years वर कम्प्लीटेड. तो आई थिंक आई वॉज 9th month में या कुछ. तो गवर्नमेंट चेंज जब हो गई तो वो इसहाक डार साहब कॉमर्स मिनिस्टर बन गए. उन्होंने वन ऑफ द फर्स्ट थिंग्स ही डिड वाज कि उन्होंने वो लॉ चेंज कर दिया एंड रिवर्टेड इट बैक. द डे ही रिवर्टेड बैक आई रिज़ाइन. और फिर वो मेरे जो SVP थे उनको भी 2 साल मिल गए थे मरहूम को. तो वो ये हुआ था. अब ये जो आपका सवाल है ना दूसरा, बिजनेसमैन और एंटरप्रेन्योर में क्या फ़र्क होता है, यही तो मेरे भाई मैं 1 घंटा थोड़ा सा समझाने की कोशिश करता रहा हूँ, या जो मेरी अक्ल में है बात, कि एंटरप्रेन्योर में तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती हैं. बिजनेसमैन तो देखें ना, अब्बा जी की दुकान है या एक कारोबार है, वो भी उसमें आके बैठ जाते हैं, इनहेरिट कर जाते, वो भी बिजनेसमैन बन गए. तो एंटरप्रेन्योर भी होता तो बिजनेसमैन है, लेकिन एंटरप्रेन्योर जो है वो क्रिएट करता है, शुरू से क्रिएट करता है. उसकी एक ये जो है ना इम्पोर्टेंट जो उसमें तफरीक है वो ये है कि वो क्रिएट करता है. और उसके बाद क्रिएट करके फिर वो उसके अंदर कुछ और लवाजमात जो है वो, अगर उसमें वाकई इतनी अहलियत है तो वो उस तरह के लवाजमात ऐड करता है जिनकी बातें मैंने की हैं. और पता है मैं अपना भी तज्जिया करता रहता हूँ अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कि क्या हमने जो ये बातें आपको कही हैं किस हद तक हमने इनको इम्बाइब किया है और इनको एसिमिलेट किया है. और कोशिश यही है हमारी कि ह्यूमन कैपिटल जो है उसको इतना बेहतर किया जाए कि ये जो फैमिली का रोल है ना ये थोड़ा कम हो जाए. लेकिन ये कहते हुए मैं ये कहूँगा आपको कि ये जो है ना एब्डिकेशन ऑफ द फैमिली एंड पासिंग ऑन ओनली टू प्रोफेशनल्स, इसके भी मैं ख़िलाफ़ हूँ. इसलिए कि उसकी अलामत जो है वो 2008 बैंकिंग क्राइसिस में आपको यूरोप में और अमेरिका में मिलती है कि चूँकि ओनरशिप इतनी ज़्यादा डिसिपेट हो गई थी तो वहाँ पे जो फेलियर्स हुए बैंकिंग में, और फिर इवन एज लार्ज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एज सिटी बैंक दे हैड टू बी बेल्ड आउट. मैं समझता हूँ कि देयर इज़ टू बी अ बैलेंस. इसमें म्याना रवि जो है ना वो बड़ी ज़रूरी है. तो ये फ़र्क है एक बिजनेसमैन में और एंटरप्रेन्योर में मेरे हिसाब से.
Assalamu alaikum. Naeem Akram Malik. Sir, I have a YouTube channel and I have a few videos, popular videos about CPEC, and people often ask me questions about CPEC. Since you have been in the manufacturing sector for a while, so I would like to ask you that, first of all, how will CPEC impact Pakistan? What will be the impacts on the manufacturing sectors of Pakistan, and will it create new opportunities for Pakistani manufacturing sector in Central Asia? And do you think that the energy crisis will be resolved and that there will be a positive impact on our industries? Thank you.
ہاں یہ مجھے آپ میرا خیال ہے یہ جیل بھجوانا چاہتے ہیں. یہ سوال کا جواب جو ہے اگر میں بالکل آنیسٹلی دے دوں آپ کو, دیکھیے اگر احسن اقبال صاحب سے پوچھیں گے نا تو وہ یہ کہیں گے کہ موسم بھی بدل جائے گا پاکستان کا سی پیک کی وجہ سے, ہے جی, اور ایجوکیشن جو ہے وہ بھی اتنی ہو جائے گی, اور یہ وہ تو اتنا آسان کام نہیں ہے. سی پیک کے دونوں پہلو ہیں میری ذاتی رائے میں, اچھے پہلو بھی ہیں برے پہلو بھی ہیں. اچھا پہلو تو یہ ہے کہ اس کا جو بیسک کانسیپٹ ہے لنکیجز کا, ون مارکیٹ ون روڈ یا جو بھی ون بیلٹ ون جو کیا کہلاتی ہے سمتھنگ لائک دیٹ, وہ ان اٹ سیلف تو بڑا امپورٹنٹ ایسپیکٹ ہے اور میرا خیال ہے پاکستان کے لیے بڑا سازگار رہے گا. میری جو اس میں دقت ہے یا پوری طرح سمجھنے میں وہ یہ ہے کہ اب ہر چیز جو ہے وہ سی پیک میں ہم ڈالے جا رہے ہیں. پہلے یہ 32 بلین سے شروع ہوئی تھی ڈالر میں, اب غالباً اس کی جو یہ تجاوز کر کے اب 76 یا 72 بلین تک پہنچ گئی ہے. اگلے دن میں نے دیکھا کہ وہ لاہور کی جو اورنج ٹرین ہے وہ بھی سی پیک میں ڈال دی ہے, تو اس کا سی پیک سے کیا تعلق ہے؟ ہاں لیکن اگر آپ ہائیڈرو پاور پروجیکٹ جو داسو ہے اس کو اگر اس میں شامل کریں تو بہت ہی سمجھداری کی بات ہے. تو میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ جو میں نے تھوڑا سا اس کا تجزیہ کیا وہ یہ ہے کہ میرے خیال میں کوئی 30-32 بلین ڈالر کے تو ایسے پروجیکٹس ہیں جو واقعی ہماری جی ڈی پی میں اسسٹ بھی کریں گے اور وہ پاکستان کے لیے خوش آئند بھی ہوں گے. لیکن کچھ ایسے پروجیکٹ ہیں خاص طور پہ جو مہنگے پاور پروجیکٹس ہیں جو کہ فاسل فیولز کے اوپر بیسڈ ہیں, چونکہ اس کی واپسی کی ادائیگی جو ہے وہ حکومت پاکستان کی گارنٹیز کے اوپر مبنی ہے. اس کا مجھے فکر ہے کہ وہ اتنا مہنگا پاور جو ہے وہ کیا پاکستان کے لیے سازگار ہوگا یا نہیں. ایک بات یہ تو براڈ ایشو ہے. دوسری بات جو آپ نے کی ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ یہ پاکستان کے مینوفیکچرنگ سیکٹر کے لیے کیا یہ کارآمد ہوگا, اچھا ہوگا. دیکھیے جب چائنا کے ساتھ فری ٹریڈ ایگریمنٹ FTA سائن ہوا تھا تو میرا خیال ہے واحد شخص تھا جس نے اس کے بالکل خلاف بولا تھا. ناٹ اونلی دیٹ, آئی واز ایبل ٹو ریچ دا پرائم منسٹر اینڈ دا پریزیڈنٹ مشرف صاحب, اور میں ان سے کہا تھا کہ یہ آپ نہ کریں. یہ FTA جو ہے دس از گوئنگ ٹو بی ویری بیڈ فار لوکل مینوفیکچرنگ, اس لیے کہ چین جو ہے اس کا ٹریڈ بیلنس ہر طرف ہر ملک میں اس کے فیور میں ہے. تو آپ کیا چیز وہاں بھیجیں گے, وہ تو یہاں پہ بھیج کے آپ کی انڈسٹری کو بند کر دیں گے, اور وہی ہوا. اب جو ہمارے پائے کے اکانومسٹ ہیں ڈاکٹر ندیم صاحب کو ملا کے, حفیظ پاشا جو ٹریڈ اکنامکس کے ماہر سمجھے جاتے ہیں, ڈاکٹر اشفاق حسن خان, وہ اب سب یہ رو رہے ہیں کہ جناب وہ FTA جو تھی وہ اس نے ہمیں تباہ کر دیا. اب وہ ایک مینوفیکچرنگ ہماری سب سے بڑی تو ٹیکسٹائل ہے نا. تو مجھے ایک پریزنٹیشن کسی نے بھیجی ہے, وہ آپ لوگوں نے دیکھی ہوگی, جو یہ صوبہ ہے مجھے نام نہیں یاد رہتے, زینجنگ, وہ ایک صوبہ ہے وہ ہمارے پاس قریب لگتا ہے. وہاں پہ انہوں نے ایک انڈسٹریلائزیشن کی پالیسی چائنیز نے اناؤنس کی ہے. اس کا ٹیکسٹائل پیکیج جو ہے وہ پتہ نہیں 20-25 ارب ڈالر کے اوپر ہے. کتنے ڈالر پہ؟ آئی تھنک 30 یا 40. اس میں ان کو بجلی جو ہے وہ ملے گی ایٹ 4 سینٹس, یعنی 4 روپے کی وہ ان کو بجلی ملے گی. 3.5 پونے 4 سینٹس. اور ان کی مجھے حیرت ہوئی یہ دیکھ کے کہ ان کی جو لیبر کاسٹ ہے وہ ہم سے کم ہے جب ہم اپنی ساری چیزیں ڈالتے ہیں. اینڈ ٹیکسٹائلز از اے لیبر انٹینسو انڈسٹری. پھر انہوں نے اس کا جو ہے اس میں ایک یہ دیا ہوا ہے کہ جو مہنگے جو صوبے ان کے ہیں ڈیولپڈ ہو گئے ہیں جہاں ان کی ویجز یا بڑھ گئی ہیں تو وہاں سے سیکنڈ ہینڈ مشینری اٹھا کے اگر آپ یہاں لائیں تو گورنمنٹ اس کے لیے بھی ایڈ دے گی. تو مینوفیکچرنگ کے کو کیا فروغ حاصل ہوگا فرام سی پیک یا نہیں, یہ آپ ایسے کریں کہ احسن اقبال سے پوچھیں, وہ آپ کو بتائے اس کے بارے میں. الیکٹریسٹی کون سا ہاں بڑی مہنگی بجلی ہوگی, مہنگی بجلی ہوگی. لوڈ شیڈنگ تو کہہ رہے ہیں ختم ہو گئی.
میرا کوشچن یہ ہے کہ جب ہم پیشن کی بات کرتے ہیں تو اس میں فیلیور آتی ہیں تو لوگ کہہ رہے ہوتے ہیں کہ فیلیور ہے, لیکن جس کا پیشن ہوتا ہے وہ اسے شاید نہیں ماننے کو تیار ہوتا. اس پہ آپ کو کیا ہے, یعنی کہ فیلیور ایک طرح ایک ریلیٹیو کوانٹٹی بن جاتی ہے.
پیشن تو ضروری ہے. اگر آپ نے سکسیڈ کرنا ہے تو جب تک پیشن نہیں ہوگا سکسیڈ نہیں کر سکتے. اچھا پیشن میں تھوڑی سی آپ کو پتہ ہے پیشن اٹ سیلف کریٹس فیلئر آلسو. فیلئر تو ہو سکتا ہے پیشن, مگر اس کا یہ مطلب نہیں ہے کہ آپ کا پیشن نہ ہو. اف یو وانٹ ٹو ریئلی بی ایبسلیوٹلی ڈیووٹیڈ ٹو سم تھنگ یو ہیو ٹو ہیو پیشن. فیلئر بھی ہوں گے, کئی فیلئر ہوتے ہیں, ہم نے بھی باتیں چیزیں کی ہیں جو فیل ہوئے. یہ تو نہیں ہوا کہ میرے بھائی اور میں نے یا میرے جو رفقائے کار تھے انہوں نے جتنا بھی کام کیا وہ ہر میں سکسیڈ ہوئے, ہر کام میں. کئی کاموں میں ہمارے غلط ہوئی, بٹ دیٹ ڈنٹ مین وی ڈنٹ ہیو پیشن ٹو ڈو اٹ. پیشن تھا, وہ شاید اور وجوہات کی بنا پہ وہ کام نہیں چل سکا. پتہ نہیں میرا آپ کو سوال کا جواب دے سکا ہوں یا نہیں, بٹ پیشن تو اسینشیل ہے.
We'll have one last question. ادھر پلیز مائک دیجیے.
تھینک یو. گڈ ایوننگ سر, اینتھنی ولیمز. سر میرا سوال یہ ہے کہ آپ نے اپنے فادر کی بھی بات کی, تو بہت سارے انٹرپرینیورز بزنس مین بنے, سکسیزفل بنے. تو میرا کویشچن یہ تھا کہ ڈو یو تھنک کہ اب اٹس ٹائم کہ 70 ایئرز ہونے لگے تو اب پالیٹکس میں بھی کوئی انٹرپرینیور آ جائے, ڈو یو سی, جو پھر آگے جا کے ایک اچھا پالیٹیشین بن سکے.
بھیجا ہوا نا میر نواز شریف کو, اور کتنے بھیجے آپ.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tariq Said Sehgal, and thank you so much, everyone. There's super things happening all across the globe, and I'm pleased to see as a student of entrepreneurship and business that there are a lot of things happening in our country as well. I'm a bit new to this international platform of Indus entrepreneurship, but I'm fully inspired by the idea of fostering entrepreneurship and helping startups add to the economy of Pakistan. And for that matter, I have a lot of respect for the person behind it all. Founder of the first real IT company in Pakistan, Crestsoft, back in 1990s, and on the boards of many concerns of Crescent Group. Founder of Crest Ventures, a renowned mentor and venture capitalist. Please give a big round of applause for Mr. Humayun Mazhar, who is the President TiE Lahore chapter.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. First of all, I'm very thankful to Tariq Saab. I think this was an enlightening evening. We learned a lot. But مجھے اب ایک گھبراہٹ ہو رہی ہے کہ یہ ٹائی ٹاک ہماری پہلے سال کی ہے اور طارق صاحب has set a standard here. It'll be very difficult in the subsequent talks to read that. But thank you, sir. I think, I see a lot of budding entrepreneurs, and ہم ہر مہینے کے اینڈ پہ last Friday of every month ہم ٹائی ٹاکس کریں گے اور کوشش کریں گے کہ we get people such as طارق صاحب to come and inspire. ٹائی میں primarily the مقصد is کہ جو budding entrepreneurs ہیں ان کی ایک تو ان کو mentorship provide کریں, ان کو leaders اور entrepreneurs such as طارق صاحب ان سے ملوائیں تاکہ وہ inspire ہوں. One of the big problems پاکستان میں entrepreneurs face کرتے ہیں is failure. राइट. एंड कोई भी जिसका कोई भी काम फेल हो जाए उसको सारे एक फेलियर ब्रांड कर देते हैं. तो अगर आप दुनिया के सक्सेसफुल एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को देखेंगे तो आज जो वो नजर आते हैं और जहां से वो शुरू हुए उस पर बहुत डिफरेंस है. कई बार वो फेल हुए, उनका पैशन था, उनके पास ये मिशन था कि हमने कुछ करके दिखाना है. एंड पाकिस्तान में एक बड़ी टर्मिनोलॉजी यूज होती है पोटेंशियल. तो हम हर बात करते हैं कि पाकिस्तान में पोटेंशियल बढ़ा है, और ये आपने बहुत पढ़ा होगा हर जगह. सब बिजनेस लीडर भी कहते हैं, पॉलिटिशियंस भी कहते हैं, पूरी दुनिया कहती है पाकिस्तान में पोटेंशियल है. तो पोटेंशियल कहाँ है? पोटेंशियल इन एंटरप्रेन्योर्स में है. मुझे 1990s में इत्तेफाक हुआ एक सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट करने का, उसमें टू बी पार्ट होने का. और मैं खुद नॉन आईटी पर्सन हूँ. तो जब मैंने वो सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनी शुरू की तो हमें एक्सपोर्ट के ऑर्डर मिलने शुरू हुए. तो हमारा ग्रुप का भी बड़ा काम था, एक छोटी सी कंपनी थी. तो जब हमें काफी बड़े ऑर्डर मिल गए तो मैं बड़ा घबराता था, यार ये छोटी सी कंपनी और हमने अभी नई शुरू किया है, यहाँ फास्ट के बच्चे रखे हैं और ये दुनिया की लीडिंग कंपनीज को सॉफ्टवेयर प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं. तो वहां मैंने एक चीज रियलाइज की कि पाकिस्तान में यूथ का और यंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स का बहुत पोटेंशियल है, राइट. अब आपने उसको क्या प्रोवाइड करना है? पाकिस्तान में जिस चीज की कमी है वो एक एनेबलिंग एनवायरनमेंट है. तो अगर आप वो एनेबलिंग एनवायरनमेंट प्रोवाइड कर देंगे उनको, तो आई थिंक मैंने अपने उस 10 साल जो मैंने सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनी चलाई और उसमें मैंने ये देखा कि पाकिस्तानी यूथ 6 महीने हुए हैं कॉलेज के आईटी ग्रेजुएट्स, they stood tall with the best in the world. So the projects we delivered, all of them were on time, on budget, bugs उनमें बहुत कम. So उससे एक चीज मेरे ज़हन में बड़ी reinforce हो गई कि वाकई हमारी यूथ का बहुत पोटेंशियल है, हमें इनको एक enabling environment प्रोवाइड करनी है. ना एक एंटरप्रेन्योर के लिए enabling environment क्या है? उसको सक्सेसफुल एंटरप्रेन्योर्स सच तारिक साहब से मिलाया जाए, उनको इंस्पायर किया जाए, उनकी मेंटरिंग की जाए. दूसरी चीज जो पाकिस्तानी सक्सेसफुल एंटरप्रेन्योर्स में एक चीज की कमी है वो टाइम. सो आई एम वेरी थैंकफुल तारिक साहब ने टाइम दिया. इस तरह हम कोशिश करेंगे और एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को लाएं, वो टाइम दें, वो आपको अपनी लाइफ स्टोरी बताएं, वो अपनी डिफिकल्टीज का बताएं, वो अपनी सक्सेसेस का बताएं, और उससे हम सारे इंस्पायर होके इफ वी कैन क्रिएट मोर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स लाइक तारिक साहब, आई थिंक पाकिस्तान का वाकई ही पोटेंशियल है. लास्टली अभी मैं कल परसों इंडिया गया हुआ था, तो एक स्टार्टअप कंपटीशन हो रहा था NASSCOM का, जो उनकी एसोसिएशन है. तो वहाँ तकरीबन उन्होंने एक इनिशिएटिव शुरू किया 10,000 स्टार्टअप्स का. तो उनमें जो टॉप 50 स्टार्टअप्स थे उनको उन्होंने एक कमरे में बुलाया हुआ था, और एक एंटरप्रेन्योर थे, वो उनको एक स्पीच दे रहे थे. उन्होंने सारा बताया है कि किन चीज़ों को देखना चाहिए, कहना चाहिए. एंड में उन्होंने एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन किया. उन्होंने कहा कि एक रोमांटिक में और एक एंटरप्रेन्योर में क्या फर्क है? तो उन्होंने सारों से पूछा, किसी ने कोई जवाब दिया, किसी ने कोई जवाब दिया. तो उसने कहा एंटरप्रेन्योर और रोमांटिसिज्म में एक चीज बड़ी कॉमन है कि एवरीवन थिंक्स दे आर रोमांटिक, सिमिलरली एवरीवन थिंक्स दे आर एंटरप्रेन्योर, पर होते बहुत कम है. तो यू आर टू रोमांटिक. अनदर बिग हैंड फॉर तारिक. So I'm very thankful for all my charter members who are here, friends who are here, business leaders who are here, and I hope इस evening में हम लोगों को इंस्पायर करने में और ये पोटेंशियल जिसकी हम बात करते रहते हैं उसको बाहर निकालने में कामयाब होंगे. थैंक यू जी.
I'd now like to invite Mr. Tariq Said Sehgal for a small token of appreciation from our side.
And now I would like to invite Vidra for the photo.